How's it going, folks? Today we're going to look at the Buck Paradigm Pro, and I'm going to tell you what it is and what it isn't. Stay tuned. So the Buck Paradigm Pro, been in my collection for a long time. It's my second sort of real knife. It's got S30V, G10, aluminum bolsters. It's a super cool knife. So today we're going to go over my thoughts on what this knife is and what this knife isn't. So first of all, what is it? To me, it's a showpiece, and that's for a few different reasons. One, it's got a really unique lock that's really fun to show people. So if you watched my first video, you'll know already, but if this is your first video, hello. So this is the Buck Paradigm Pro. It's S30V, it's a drop point blade, but one of the cool things about it is the lock. It's got a bolster lock, so you twist this bolster up, and then you push the flipper tab in kind of a light switch motion, which also closes the bolster back. Now she's open. Very unique lock, very fun to show people, non-knife people and knife people. My favorite part is giving this to a knife person who may be more accustomed to an axis lock or a frame lock and be like, fine, get this thing open. First thing they do is this, they push the tab, it doesn't open, they flip it around, they kind of push things, they look for a switch, nothing. Sometimes they figure it out, sometimes they don't. I've had people take about 10 minutes to figure out that you have to push this up and then pull the tab back and it's open. So number one in it being a showpiece is the lock. Number two is the looks. It's a great looking knife. I happen to like blue stuff, as you can see by the bug out in the picture as well. This knife has very nice lines. The top flows into the back of the knife very well. The flipper isn't huge, so it doesn't stick out and smash into the table while you're trying to cut stuff. A nice drop point blade like that is a very friendly shape, so to non-knife people and knife people, they're not going to really get offended by it. The bolsters are kind of a nice transition between the blade and the handle, so they don't get that a little bit of a harsh change from when it's blade to handle. Overall, to me, it's a great looking knife. Alright, next up, what it is, it's an EDC blade. To me, an EDC blade has to cut well, has to carry in your pocket well, and you have to enjoy having it with you. This checks all those boxes. So the blade is S30V with a nice hollow grind. I'll do a bit of a zoom in here, and you can see the blade. It's a hollow grind, but it comes way up the top here. So it'll slice, it'll dice, it'll cut. It's awesome. S30V holds its edge for a while, so you're not going to have to worry about sharpening it. I've sharpened it a couple times. It sharpens up real nice. S30V is not easy to sharpen, but it's definitely not the hardest out there. It's great. So that's the blade. Comfort-wise, a knife has to be comfortable in your pocket. So this knife, it's not the thinnest thing, but as you can see, it carries really deep. There's no way of the pants catching in the corner there because it's flush with the top of the knife. You only have basically nothing of the knife sticking out once it's in your pocket. So if you want to be a little bit discreet with it, it's very easy. Most of the time, people aren't going to notice that you're carrying a knife. Another thing, it's very comfortable. So you can see the handle is nice and sculpted. It's round. It doesn't have any corners. So when you're holding it, it just sits there. There's no jimping or anything. It doesn't need it because of how contoured the knife is. Now, if you're working in an extremely greasy or gross application, I wouldn't bring this knife for many reasons, but if you have any lubricant on your hands, it's maybe not going to be it's not going to stay in your hands the best, but the contour of the knife makes it comfortable to use in an average, everyday, office-y type scenario. Another thing, it's very easy in your pocket. So sometimes you get a knife, for example, my new knife, one of my new knives, the Para 3, the G10 is quite rough, you can hear it. This thing will be sort of mean to pockets. This thing really won't, it's very smooth. So when you're taking this thing in and out of the pocket, it does it very well. You're not going to chew up your pants, you're not going to have that look, that tactical look that people have, or they have that shredded pocket where people seem to wear with pride. You're not going to get that. So this is good for dress pants, good for slacks, good for jeans, good for yoga pants, I don't know, whatever have you. It's been a joy to carry for the 8 years that I've had it. Another thing that this knife is assisted. So it's not a manual action knife, meaning that when you press this tab, a spring helps it get out the rest of the way. So I will push the bolster, and I just barely have to touch this a little bit, and the knife flies out. So I can demonstrate that it's assisted by trying to close it, and it'll spring back. A manual knife won't do that. For example, this one. It just closes. So, an assisted opening knife, some people like it, some people don't, but this knife is assisted, so I have to mention it. Alright guys, now let's talk what this knife isn't. To me, this knife isn't a hard use knife. And why that is kind of the way the lock works. So while the lock is a really cool lock, it's not a very simple lock. Something like the back lock on this Bird Caracara, it's basically just a piece of steel with a spring that goes into a notch. Perfect. Easy. You can beat on this all day and the lock's not gonna break. The Buck Paradigm has a little pin that moves back and forth. The pin has a groove that's machined into it, and when the pin is in one position, it prevents the blade from opening or closing, and when it's in a different position, it allows the blade to open and close. And how you get to that point is you have to turn this bolster. Let's see if we can zoom in here and I can give it a show. So, all right, let's focus up. All right, so in there's the pin I'm talking about. So if I move this over, see the pin moves over, now it's going to allow the blade to come out, right? I will close it, and then when I close this back down, the bolster moves back over. All right, zoom back in, because we don't need to be that close the whole time. All right, so why I'm saying this isn't a hard use lock or hard use knife is because there's a lot of moving parts that goes within this lock. This bolster moves, so it's really the pivot screw is kind of sandwiching all the bolster, the blade. There's two springs in there, and the pin and the spring behind the pin. There's a lot going on in here. I've taken it apart a couple times, and actually that's the next point. But it's not a lock that I put a lot of faith in, because if you look at it at the top, there's only a little tiny bit of metal preventing that blade from closing. So in it being an EDC blade for me, opening a box or opening an envelope or processing cardboard to throw it in the bin, that's what this knife's for. I'm not going to go batoning with it. I'm not going to try to redo a living room with it. I have other knives that I'll do that with, mostly fixed blades. But this knife to me is not a hard use knife. Another thing this knife isn't, and this honestly should be point number one, is it is not easy to disassemble. So there's just so many pieces to it. There's the bolster, which moves. Underneath the bolster, there's a spring, because this bolster is a little bit sprung. And then there's a liner, and underneath the liner, there's two coil springs, washers, the blade, and then the bolster on the other side, which has a little notch in the bottom here, so it doesn't move, but it's still not necessarily held down with anything apart from the pivot screw. So the pivot screw demands a lot of, it has a lot to do. It's basically squishing everything in the pivot together to hold it there. And getting that all to work together again after you disassemble is a pain. I've done it twice. I had to do it once because one of the coil springs broke, and once was just pure curiosity, and curiosity killed the cat in that respect. It took me forever I think it took me more than a day, because I had to leave it because I got annoyed trying to get it to go back together. But if you do end up ever owning this knife, I would recommend not taking it apart unless you absolutely have to, because it's not easy to put back together. This knife is not light. This baby is 4.8 ounces, and the reason that is I'm bringing it up is because in my last video you'll notice that the Benchmade bug out over there is my favorite EDC knife, and one of the things I listed was it was light. So this guy, I believe is about 1.8 ounces. So that means you could carry approximately 3 bug outs for one Paradigm. And that's a big deal for some people. For me, it's not really, because I don't necessarily carry the knife by weight. I carry it by sort of the space I have in my pocket for it. I'm not going to not carry the Buck Paradigm because it's heavy. I own this Mastrop Keen, which is also heavy. I own a large Sebenza, which is also heavy. So I'm not worried about weight necessarily, but I can't say that this knife is light because it's not. That knife is light, this one's not. And the last thing this knife isn't is tactical. Nothing about this knife screams tactical. It's blue. How often do you see someone dressed in blue that's trying to be tactical? It's shiny. If it's tactical, you want to be all dark and scary and spooky. This knife isn't that. It's got a drop point, which isn't the most effective blade shape for being a tactical. Also, it takes too long to open in terms of a tactical point of view. So that's why like Emerson came up with the Wave, and that's why there's auto knives, and that's why there's assisted knives and stuff like that, is to help it get open faster. This one has a second step where you actually have to move something else and push something before it opens. If this is more of a tactical knife, I should be able to push this and have it open, but I can't. I have to move this bolster and then open it. Alright dudes, conclusion time. So to me, what this knife is a showpiece, an EDC knife that's assisted. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. It's my second favorite knife that I own. This Mastrop Keen is slowly ascending those ranks though, so subject to change. And what this knife isn't is hard use, it's not easy to disassemble, it's not tactical, and it's not light. So if you're looking for a hard use, easy to disassemble, tactical, light knife, don't look at the Buck Paradigm Pro at all. If you're looking at something you can show your friends that has a couple unique things about it and that's good at carrying things, or that's good at cutting things for you every day, the Buck Paradigm Pro should make your short list of knives. It is discontinued, but I'm sure you can still find them out there. It'd be really cool of you guys if you could like and comment on the video to tell me A, if you liked it, B, what I can change about it. So what I'm going to be doing with my reviews is doing what I think the knife is and what I think the knife isn't. So it'll be similar format to this video. If you like that, tell me about it. If you don't like it, tell me about it. Follow me on Instagram at Kyle_carries. You can see what I'm carrying every day. I tend to post 1 to 2 pictures per day of what's in my pocket. I might switch it up in the middle of the day because I came home or went back outside or something like that. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please keep watching. Please subscribe. Thank you so much.